It's 6 p.m. on a Friday here in Korea. Good to have you with us. I'm Daniel, Chef for Arirang News. Let's start with the headlines. At the Center for Strategic and International Studies, President Park Geun-hye highlights how the Korea-U.S. alliance will be strengthened following a successful reunification of the two Koreas. Despite the South Korean defense minister's efforts, the U.S. remains reluctant to transfer key technologies crucial to getting Korea's fighter jet project off the ground. And President Barack Obama halts plans to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan, deeming it necessary to continue training Afghan forces in the battle against al-Qaeda. President Park Geun-hye is now on her third day in Washington. She stressed the importance of coordination with the United States in dealing with North Korea. Calling it the strongest alliance in the world, the president said the two countries' ties will be upgraded through the reunification of the Korean Peninsula. Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
한미 동맹은 한반도 남녘에서 많은 기적의 성공 스토리를 만들어냈습니다. 이제 그 기적의 역사를 한반도 전역으로 확대해 나가야 할 때입니다.
That was President Park's key message before U.S. officials and academics at the Center for Strategic and International Studies on Thursday. She said South Korea and the U.S. must exert their leadership to encourage North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons program and open up to the world. This, the president said, would be the most certain way to bring about sustainable peace on the Korean Peninsula. President Park noted that the Seoul-Washington alliance will be upgraded through the reunification of the Koreas and evolve into an alliance that stands for humanity. The emphasis on the alliance was also clear during her visit to the Pentagon earlier in the day. Speaking to a group of South Korean and American soldiers, President Park said they were the core of what is now the strongest alliance in the world.
한미 장병 여러분들이 어깨를 나란히 하고 같이 근무하는 모습을 보면서 또 자유의 최전선에 함께 서 있는 여러분들이야말로 한미 동맹의 심장이라고 생각을 했었습니다.
On Friday, President Park will hold her fourth summit talks with President Obama, where the two leaders are expected to reaffirm their joint commitment in dealing with North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News, Washington.
South Korea and the United States are expected to reaffirm their commitment to denuclearizing North Korea by adopting a joint statement following their bilateral summit on Friday. The statement is expected to include ways to effectively respond to North Korea's threats and prompt backlash from Pyongyang. Connie Kim reports.
The presidential office of Cheongwade said Thursday that Korean President Park Geun-hye and her U.S. counterpart Barack Obama will adopt a joint statement on North Korea's nuclear weapons program following their summit. It's the first time Seoul and Washington will issue a statement solely on North Korea. Although the statement is still in the works, it's expected to include ways to resume the long-stalled nuclear talks, counter North Korea's provocations, and include details for North Korean economic development should the regime give up its nuclear arms. Seoul and Washington's statement on North Korea's nuclear programs comes amid speculation Pyongyang could launch a long-range rocket. Experts say the joint statement will pressure the reclusive regime.
North Korea's regime will be pressured by the joint statement. There is a possibility Pyongyang will express dissatisfaction with the statement and respond accordingly.
Analysts add Pyongyang's response could come in the form of strong words or a passive attitude towards holding high-level inter-Korean talks. A broad range of issues, including the economy and pending international issues, will also be covered at the summit. The White House said the South Korea-U.S. free trade agreement and climate change issues are likely to be on the agenda of the two leaders' talks. It'll be the fourth summit between Presidents Park and Obama since the South Korean leader took office in early 2013. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Also, President Park hinted at the possibility of a summit with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on the sidelines of trilateral talks between Korea, Japan, and China, set for later this month or early next month. It was a welcome news for Japan initially until they learned that the key agenda will be Japan's acknowledgement of its wartime sex crimes. Song Ji-sun tells us more.
Speaking at a Q&A session following her speech at the Center for Strategic and International Studies Forum, President Park Geun-hye says she hopes the upcoming trilateral summit with Japan and China will serve as an opportunity to mend Seoul-Tokyo relations. On the sidelines of that summit, Slated for sometime in late October or early November, President Park says she's willing to sit down with Abe, saying it would be meaningful if progress is made on the issue of Japan's sexual enslavement of Korean women before and during World War II.
한일중 정상회의를 계기로 한일 양국 관계를 가로막고 있는 장애물을 제거하고 미래 지향적 발전 방향을 깊이 논의할 수 있기를 바라고 있습니다.
The two leaders have yet to hold a summit, as bilateral relations remain at a historic low due to Japan's denial of its wartime atrocities. In response to President Park's latest remarks, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said that the two sides should discuss the matter on multiple levels, hinting a slight change in Tokyo's stance towards the issue. Kyodo News also reported Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was quoted as saying Tokyo will hold bilateral summits with Seoul and Beijing on the sidelines of the trilateral talks, which will take place for the first time in 3.5 years. 송지선, Arirang News.
The president also attended a meeting of South Korean and American business leaders in Washington and called for increased cooperation to improve their bilateral trade relations. In her speech, President Park proposed strengthening the South Korea-U.S. free trade deal and creating an environment to accommodate investors. She noted the need for close cooperation between Seoul and Washington amid the expansion of mega deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP. She added that South Korea joining that trade pact would benefit businesses in both countries, considering Seoul's FTAs with giant economies like the European Union and China. The United States has told South Korea that it is difficult to accept Seoul's request for the transfer of 4 core technologies crucial to Korea's indigenous fighter jet development project. Despite the setback, the South Korean military says there are other ways to develop the necessary technology. For details, we turn to Kim Hyun-bin.
Korea's Defense Minister Han Min-gu held talks with his U.S. counterpart Ashton Carter at the Pentagon on Thursday local time and asked him to reconsider Seoul's request of 4 key technology transfers. Carter said it will be difficult to grant Seoul's request, but that the two countries can explore ways to increase technological cooperation. The two defense chiefs agreed to establish a consultative forum to discuss ways to increase cooperation in defense technology, including the KFX project. Among the 4 technologies, the ASEAN multipurpose radar and RF jammers used to disrupt or prevent communication via a broadcasted RF signal have never been transferred outside of the U.S.
If the U.S. doesn't transfer the technologies, we will have to work with either England, Sweden or Israel, who are favorable candidates for the task.
The 4 technologies are critical to the KFX project, which aims to produce 120 fighter jets to replace South Korea's aging fleet of F-4 and F-5s. Even without transfer from the U.S., Korea's defense ministry advanced its development plan.
Our Defense Ministry has advanced the deadline to develop the KFX project. There are only a few cases of countries developing their fighter jets on time and within budget. So it looks like ministry officials are trying to pass responsibility to their successors.
The South Korean military says Korea is capable of developing the ASAR radar by the year 2021 and the other 3 technologies by mid-2020. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
In local politics, the hot topic of debate at the National Assembly continues to be the government's recent decision to have greater control of what goes into history textbooks in Korea starting from 2017. Park Ji-won zooms in the ongoing rumble.
On the last day of Parliament's interpellation session on Friday, ruling Saenuri Party lawmakers reiterated that the government's goal is to correct any biased views about the nation's modern history, which includes misleading descriptions about the cause of the Korean War, lenient views on North Korea, and a harsh criticism of South Korea's post-war industrialization period. Conservative lawmakers argue that the current system, authorizing the publishing of textbooks by private companies, does not allow for proper quality control.
Chapters about South Korea's development in the 1970s are negative and grim. Do these descriptions meet the ministry's criteria?
The current authorization system is not accountable for the content of private textbooks unless something is blatantly wrong. It is hard to filter out problems under the current system.
Main opposition party lawmakers say, however, the government's move is an attempt to embellish Korea's authoritarian past while controlling the liberty of thought and education.
Many historians have issued statements of boycott against government-issued textbooks, and more scholars will likely join the campaign. Why do you think they boycotted?
The government's stance is that a balanced group of experts should produce a textbook based on historical facts.
Opposition to the government's move is increasing in academic circles, adding to several university faculty members' boycott statements coming out this week. The Korean History Research Association, the largest association of historians in the country, issued their rejection statement on Friday. This follows a similar boycott by the Association for Korean Modern and Contemporary History announced on Thursday. But public opinion remains divided. According to a latest Gallup poll of over 8,000 people, 42% of respondents support the government's move, while the same percentage of respondents are against it. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
It's finally happening. Families separated for 65 years because of a tragic war that divided a nation in two will be reunited with long-lost relatives across the border. And the South Korea's Unification Ministry had more good news for them when they revealed the final itinerary for the event. The farewell session on the last day is extended by an hour to 2 hours for the first time, following Pyongyang's agreement to the proposal. 6 sessions, each lasting for 2 hours, will take place over the 3 days, including reporters and officials. A total of 938 South Koreans will travel to the reunion venue of Mount Kumgang. The first round will begin on October 20th, with 96 families in the north reuniting with their South Korean relatives. One family from the north had to be withdrawn from the initial list as their South Korean relatives canceled due to health issues. The second round of reunions will take place on October 24th, also for 3 days, with 90 South Korean families expected to meet their relatives from the north. U.S. President Barack Obama says American troops will remain in Afghanistan for the time being to assist with an increasingly fragile security situation there. Son Jung-in looks into this major policy U-turn.
U.S. President Barack Obama has announced his decision to shift from his earlier pledges to end America's longest war on his watch. Speaking at the White House on Thursday, Obama said the U.S. will maintain its current force of 9,800 troops in Afghanistan through next year and draw down to 5,500 when he leaves office in January 2017. Obama emphasized that the mission remains the same.
Their mission will not change. Our troops will continue to pursue those two narrow tasks that I outlined earlier, training Afghan forces and going after al-Qaeda.
The administration had previously planned to withdraw all U.S. military forces by the end of next year, leaving behind only a small group of embassy-based troops in Kabul. But after months of deliberations with his advisors and Afghanistan's leaders, Obama said they decided to postpone the drawdown because Afghan troops were still not strong enough to beat back a resurgent Taliban and other opposition forces.
The bottom line is, in key areas of the country, the security situation is still very fragile, and in some places, there's risk of deterioration.
This marks the second delay this year. Critics have slammed Obama for entering the White House with a pledge to bring home American troops from 2 major wars, but instead leaving with U.S. forces engaged in 3 ongoing conflicts in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
The Seoul Central District Court ordered Google to disclose the personal information it shared with the third parties, including U.S. intelligence agency. The ruling follows a lawsuit filed by 6 Korean activists in July, demanding full disclosure on whether the global technology giant had shared information with a third party. Citizens Coalition for Economic Justice said Google Inc. is accused of passing on personal information of its global users to a U.S. government intelligence program, PRISM. In addition to the ruling, the court dismissed the plaintiff's claim for $2,600 in compensation. In Korea, online service providers are required to respond to a user's request for disclosure regarding the sharing of their personal data. The 10th round of talks on the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, is wrapping up this Friday in Korea's southern port city of Busan. 16 nations are involved, the 10 members of the Associations of Southeast Asian Nations and their 6 FTA partners, including Korea, China, and Japan. The representatives focused on setting guidelines for market liberalization and discussed issues on property rights, legal systems, and e-commerce. The meeting is the first of its kind held in Korea and the first after the Trans-Pacific Partnership was inked, a mega trade deal led by the U.S. and Japan in which Korea is not a current member. That's why experts believe members of the China-backed RCEP are committed more than ever to signing a deal. That's it from us. More coming your way at 10 p.m. Korea time, so do join us then. For now, thank you for watching.